Hey guys, so this is fret day and we're going to address this tear out. We're also going to install some new inlays to replace those that we burned through. This is the dowel forming jig. We're going to take this jig and mount it to the back of the neck here so that we can secure the neck to a T-track on the table. These T-tracks come in handy. So once we get our neck mounted up here, we'll get started. There's our drill bits that I ordered. Here are two inlays. They're approximately 6mm by just under 2mm, 1.9. I started this drill by hand because I was trying to avoid any tear out. I should be using a brad point bit, but I didn't have a 6mm on hand. So now we're going to drill down a little and then we're going to take a quick measurement. We only need about a millimeter and a half. As you can see, we're still too shallow, but we're close. So we'll drill a little bit more. We want these to be slightly proud. We're going to dab our super glue, drop our inlays in. We're going to give a little love tap, then a little harder love tap, and then we're going to go ahead and address this little bit of tear out here. Pack it with a little bit of the sawdust from the video where we sanded the fretboard to the 12-inch radius. A little bit more of the dust. Now I did let this dry before I started sanding, but only for about 40-45 minutes. No, it's not going to take much sanding. We're just going to knock these inlays down flush with the fretboard. And there they are, nice and flush. Now let's address this tear out and that deform. I like to use these fret guards and then wrap them in a piece of wax paper and then just stick that inside the fret slot. Then we'll pack some sawdust and wick some glue in. And I apologize that you can't really see the other side. The camera that I had set up on that other angle died on me and I didn't realize it. So now we're going to cut some of this off with a razor knife just to prepare for some sanding. It won't take long to sand this. This is the 12-inch radius block with 220 grit paper. And it won't take much sanding. That's good enough. And now we're going to clean out the slots. We will have to cut them down a little because we did lose some of the depth when we went from the 10-inch to the 12-inch radius. This fret was a little bit tight because the repair on the tear out. You can't see it from this angle, and I apologize that I didn't film it, but on each side of the saw blade, I have two pieces of tape that are 2mm above the edge of the teeth, and that's to act as a stop, but really more like a reminder. We only need to go 2 millimeters because our fret wire is 1.85 millimeters. And now I'm going to hit it with some 400 grit just to polish the fretboard a bit. And now we'll remove the fretboard and remove the jig and prepare to commence fret installation. Now, I apologize that you can't see this first fret quite well. The other camera was set for a larger view, but we're going to put a couple of drops of glue, about 3 drops of glue in, and then just press the frets in. You'll be able to see the rest of these. So just a couple of taps with the fretting hammer, and then the press. I like to use the fret press. And I'm not overly concerned with not getting a bunch of glue on the outside sections, because I'm going to wet glue in once I'm finished cutting these frets back. There, that's what they're going to look like. And we'll just follow that procedure on through. And if the fret will stay aligned enough I can get it in the press, I won't even use the hammer. If you're interested in setting yourself up one of these fret presses, I made this one by basically converting an arbor press from Harbor Freight. I caught one on sale. I think it was around 60 or 70 bucks. And then the caul came with several different sizes of radii for frets. And I don't remember. I'll have to look up the name of the company I bought it from, but I'll look it up and place a link in the description. And then it's fairly easy to take this arbor press apart and then modify it for the caul. And you can still use it. Just take the caul back out. There's a set screw in the front that holds the caul in place. And I'm using a thin CA glue. And I'll also put a link to it in the description. This fret wire is what we purchased from Stu Mac. If you haven't watched the first video, please watch it. And it shows all of the other components that we purchased. Hey, if you're enjoying the video and you haven't done so already, please subscribe and ring the notification bell so that you can be alerted when I upload a new video. I have some other series that I'm going to be updating soon. And like the video to help me get some traffic. And also, I'm interested in hearing from you. If you have ideas for videos, or if there are things that you would like to see me do differently, throw a comment in and let me know. I also would point out that you may not necessarily need to glue your frets. This is a vintage guitar that I will play, but I will mostly just keep it for just to add to my collection. And I don't plan on getting rid of this instrument. But if I was doing this for a customer, if the frets fit good and tight, I may not would even glue them in. There it is. Time to cut the frets back. We'll just trim these with these nippers. And I think I bought these off of Amazon. Now we will reinsert the jig so we can clamp it up and file. Then we have to file the edges of the frets and then bevel. And then after that we'll micro level the fretboard. There's the bevel file. I've got the flat side first. That's a 90-degree angle. And I tried to knock some of the filing out of the video, but I didn't want to knock so much out that it looked like it was just a demo. The goal for this first section, or using the first side of the file, is to basically just get the ends of the frets even with the fretboard. And then after that, we flip it over and then we bevel the frets. And as you can see here, the angled side is now over, and we're beveling the frets on this side. So now that looks good. So we'll unclamp it and spin the fretboard around to the other side of the table. Secure the fretboard again, or the neck again. And then we'll put a bolt through one of the tuner holes to help keep the neck good and straight. And just like the other side, we're going to use the 90-degree side of the file. And I'm going to start out by just filing the frets level with the fretboard, the side of the fretboard. Even with the side of the fretboard, not level. Now they're good and even, so we'll flip the file over and bevel this side. So now we're going to take some sandpaper, and we're just going to basically rub down the edges, and this is to get rid of any sharp spots, and just to make sure that it's good and smooth. And then we're going to prepare to micro level the fretboard. And we'll polish these edges when we polish the frets when we're finished with crowning. So the first step, of course, is to ensure that the fretboard itself is good and flat. And if you notice, I'm adjusting the truss rod adjustment. And now we're going to ink the frets. We're going to mark them. I just use a Sharpie. I'm sure they make a luthier grade that costs 3 times as much. Here's our leveling beam and some double-sided tape. And I'm going to tape down, I didn't catch it on this portion of the video, but basically I just taped down some 400 grit sandpaper. And the purpose in the ink, if you notice that some of the ink is coming off right away, everywhere that the ink is not removed is a low spot. Well, you can't really do anything about the low spot, so you have to lower everything else. That's kind of the concept. And as you can see, we do have some low spots. I'm going to go ahead and ink everything up again. And we're looking better, but we're not quite there. So let's go one more time with the Sharpie. Mark it up again. And as you can see, we're looking pretty good at this point, but we do still have a couple of low edges. It's looking pretty good.
So now we're going to get the radius sander and brush over it just to make sure that we do still have the 12-inch radius on the frets, and to kind of smooth things out a bit. And it has 400 grit paper on it. And we check it to see how flat it is, and it was good and flat, or good and level. Now we're marking it. I usually use red and black because the frets are so shiny. And now we're going to crown the frets with our fret file. And I know most of you already know this, but for any of you that don't, we do this so that as we're filing the frets from each side, we'll start to notice a thin line on the top of the fret. And that's what the goal is to sharpen this back into, or crown this back into a fine point at the top of the fret. And it's hard to tell with the lighting as bright as it is, but if you pay close attention, you'll notice a fine black line on top of the frets that I've crowned. And that's what we're trying to achieve. And you probably also noticed that some of these only took 2 or 3 passes, and those were the ones that were low. And the ones that I'm having to really work on, those are the ones that we had to take down a good deal just to level everything due to the low frets. Then I went back and cleaned some of these up a little. And now I'm just basically running some sandpaper across with my fingers to get any of the file marks out that I can. I like to do this, and once I knock the file marks out as much as I can like this, I use fret erasers. You'll see those in a moment, and I usually use 400 grit and then an 800 grit. And again, we're also going to polish these. There's the 400 grit fret eraser. If you've never used these and you've thought about getting some, I'd recommend them. They are very handy. They're really handy if you have any tarnishing. which most of my instruments are opened up quite a bit and used quite a bit, so I don't get a lot of tarnish. But if you ever have a little tarnish on your frets when you do your string changes, these are really good for a quick polish. And I think I bought mine off of Amazon. And this is the 800 grit. So now we're gonna clean up all the remnants of super glue and any gunk left over. I did wick the glue in. Sometimes when you do that, well, actually almost always when you do that, some of it gets out on top of the fretboard. Okay, so that looks good, and now it's time to prepare to polish. And there are frets ready to polish. I use Mother's Magnet aluminum polish. It works quite well in frets, and I usually just dab some on the frets and then put a little on the wheel. Bear with me on the recording.
I only recorded about a minute and a half at regular speed, just to show you how I go about polishing the frets. And then after that, I speed everything up 4 times the regular speed just to breeze through it. But we're gonna polish these up across the top insides and along the edges. I recorded this at normal speed, or demonstrated at normal speed just a bit, because I wanted to just let you see how shiny these frets are after all of the care and the prep work and then this polishing. So this stuff does work quite well. If you haven't used it, I would recommend it, and you can buy it from an automotive shop. And I lost the old wheel, so I had to put another wheel on. I know not everyone masks off their fretboards when they polish, but I hate getting this polish in my fretboard, or any of this white polish. I hate getting this stuff in there, and then it tries to get between the fret and the fretboard. So now we're just going to buff this stuff off as we're cleaning it to get ready to prepare the masking, or pull the masking off. And if you look, you notice how nice and shiny these frets are. Now we'll remove the masking. And there is the clean fretboard, or polished frets and crown frets and clean head. And now we're ready to install the logo. So this is the dowel that we made with the dowel shaper. We're just going to fill this first tree hole. So the story behind these instruments is the Hohner instruments that were sold to Sears didn't have the logo, so this hole is in the spot, or in the way of where the logo would be if the guitar was sold directly by Hohner. In other words, the tree is in a different location. And I did allow this to dry before I chiseled it. And that is a maple dowel. Then we're going to sand it flush. And there is our decal. Now this decal is printed and mirrored
so that after you spray the clear coat to seal the ink onto the transfer material, we want the transfer material to be up on the outside. So basically doing it this way, the ink is sandwiched between the wood of the head and the transfer material. And the label actually started to come off sooner than I expected, but it still worked out okay. Now I'm going to slide this up and align it so that the H is on top of that dowel. And start getting some of the water out from underneath it. There we go. So now we look at the finished product, and this is with the logo after spraying several coats of clear lacquer and then level sanding and then clear lacquering again and level sanding so that the logo disappears into the lacquer. Thanks for watching.